And here's Kevin Stefanski reminding everybody that these are voluntary workouts because there was somebody missing from OTAs yesterday. And no, I'm not talking about Deontay Johnson.
It's really important to remember that this is a voluntary program. And anybody who's here, we're excited about that. We're not reporting who's here on what day. There are guys that will be in and out of the program, and that is totally their prerogative. But the guys that are here will just continue to work.
And then Kev was pressed further because Myles is in Tokyo, Japan on a jaunt, on a vacation. And Kevin Stefanski again emphasized voluntary.
Myles Garrett is in Japan right now, apparently. Does that upset you in any way?
No, this is a voluntary program.
I don't know if whoever asked the question didn't hear the first answer, but either way, Kevin Stefanski putting it out there again that it's a voluntary thing. So here's where I'm at. I had a lot of people reach out yesterday. I know at the end of the show, we kind of brought this up a little bit. I knew it was going to be a big deal today, and here we are. A leopard doesn't change his spots, guys. It doesn't change his spots. He's flirted with the idea of leadership in the past. He's not a leader. He never has been, and clearly he never will be. You pay him, the Browns pay him money for sacks. If they expect him to be a leader, then I'm sorry, they're sadly mistaken. If you then expected him to be a leader, I'm sorry. I really feel bad for you because you're the fan and you have no power over the issue. You were sadly mistaken. I'm sorry. This is part of what the problem has been for how many years. They look in the wrong place for leadership. There's guys who can lead from those positions, and there's guys who flirt with the idea of leadership. He is a guy who has been flirtatious with it before. I think he's tried to say the right things here and there. Clearly, this is a man who doesn't want to be a leader. So how can I find myself that mad? Why would I be mad? They gave him the money. Did they think that he was really going to all of a sudden be Mr. Leadership? Did they think he was going to be Mr. Ray Lewis in the locker room all of a sudden?
Okay, here's what I think did happen when we went through the spectacle of him going on national television, doing all the radio shows, and telling everybody that he thought the Browns were not going to be a place for him for various reasons. Notably, they're not going to be good anytime soon, was the thought. Well, that obviously bummed a bunch of fans, even the ones that agreed with him on a lot of that. It stinks to have somebody like that seem like an untenable situation.
Yeah.
But then what happened? Hey, Myles Garrett signed a brand new contract. And he's up there saying, well, the Browns sold me on this.
With his dinosaurs.
Yes.
He had his dinosaur figurines.
Right. Already. I'd forgotten about that already. And then Jimmy Haslam at the owners' meetings are like, yeah, the expectation is now that we're going to get more of that pronounced leadership out of Myles, and he's going to be a central part of this organization. We've been communicating with him reasons that we think we're going to be really good really soon. And then it already seems like all of that was a lie when the first chance he got to kind of demonstrate and flex his leadership muscles, he's as literally as far away as humanly possible.
I can't say it was a lie. Maybe they thought he was going to do it, which again, I say that's their fault. They didn't. It's been 8 years. He's been is this year 9 for Myles? Year 9, I think, for Myles Garrett. He hasn't been to OTAs in how many years? I don't expect leadership out of Myles Garrett. I've never expected. There might have been a time where I thought he might become a leader because he's a number 1 overall choice, but he's not a leader. He's not a leader. And I don't expect that from him. If this team is going to be in a position where they're all in, it's going to come from other positions. I don't think that makes him a jerk. I just don't think that makes him a leader. There are plenty of guys. If he's got a C on his chest, it's just because he leads the team in sacks. It's just because he's their best defensive player that they've had in the history of the franchise. But when it comes to leadership, no. And I don't expect that from him. So
now, here's the question.
I'm shrugging my shoulders at everybody going, why are you getting so mad? You really expected him to become a leader?
I'm in agreement with you on that. Did the Browns expect him to change all of a sudden?
Then they were sadly mistaken. Again, if people thought this was going to be some sort of a punishment and a come to Jesus moment with Myles Garrett, give him $123 million guaranteed was going to be that?
Yeah,
no.
Okay, I'm in agreement because at no point did I think he was all of a sudden going to be a different guy, right? I'm with you.
Okay, I'm glad you feel that way because I didn't know how you were going to take it this morning.
But I do know that there have been fans have been taken on this Myles Garrett roller coaster that I think what made them feel better, what gave them the warm and fuzzies was that all of a sudden it was kumbaya at the end of the year. And this was going to be a tool to make the Browns better, not only in keeping him, but that he was going to give you the best of both worlds. He was going to give you the on the field stuff, and he was going to give you the off the field stuff.
Well, I'm sorry. Then again, I apologize for everybody who was taken for that type of a ride, because that's not a ride that I ever portrayed that they were doing with Myles Garrett. I'm not going to accuse him of being a leader for the future and for the now. That's going to have to come from other positions, and that's why this quarterback position is so wide open, and that is why I don't think that they will get to a playoff position this year. That's part of the reason why, and I heard Zach Jackson say it, I don't think that they're a bottom caliber team, but it's certainly within the realm of possibilities if they have a couple of injuries, because it's very easy for fans to give up on a team like this, and it's very easy for players to give up on a team like this, because if you have your highest paid, most impactful player who does, he goes on vacation and he has his own time, and he lets his play do the speaking for itself. Well, it's easy to do that when things go away. So if you felt that way, then you have been taken for a ride that you really should have known better in the first place. That's all there is to it. Because I never once, you pay him, the Browns pay him for the sacks. If he goes out there and he has 6 sacks this year, you want to rip him up and down, fine. Rip him up and down, because that's where it is. Like, there's guys, they are such good. Jose Ramirez. Let's use Jose Ramirez for example here. He's got a 21-game hit streak. He's fantastic, right? At some point, Father Time will catch up with Jose Ramirez, and we will not be very strong in commentary about Jose Ramirez's performance. You know why? Because there's bona fide 100% strong leadership. If you know Jose Ramirez for anything, you know that he has strong leadership, and he backs up what he says, and he says very little to us, but I know that he has a very strong opinion of everything that goes on within that clubhouse. And you give him leeway because he's meant so much to the franchise. Once Myles Garrett starts turning in 6 sacks and doesn't have the motor that he had before, doesn't have the type of superhuman strength that he has before, it's open season. It's open season. When you are a great leader and a great player, it gives you a little bit more leeway. So yeah, if he goes out there and he sucks up the room at some point coming up, then yeah, guys, it is what it is. But if he continues to turn in 14 to 18 sacks a season, then there's very little I can say about the guy, because it's a performance-based product that he gives you. And very few people can offer anything that Myles Garrett offers for your defense. So Myles Garrett, if he wants to go to Tokyo, fine, go to Tokyo. He wants to if he wants to go to Istanbul, if he wants to go to Iqaluit, if he wants to go from Timbuktu to Portland, Maine, go right on ahead and do it, as long as you turn in all those sacks. Because he has never shown me that he is going to be a leader, and I'm fine with that. They didn't pay him for leadership. They paid him for the sacks. And if we thought anything different, then I guess it's woe on us. 21647. Go ahead.
I just hope it's not woe on the Browns. That's all. I hope that they didn't truly think that he was going to become some transformational.
Now you have reason to be pissed about it. Previously, it was just Myles being Myles.
Maybe it's just we've just been around him so long. I just don't have the energy to get mad at him.
Yeah, but I think it's different now, because he jerked around the organization and jerked around the city of Cleveland.
But they knew. Again, this is 10 years of Myles. They knew when he was signing that he was not going to do voluntary stuff and he wasn't going to go above and beyond. And I would bet months from now we get some sort of spin being like, man, Myles Garrett has unlocked Mason Graham. He's the reason why Mason Graham is so great.
Now it's not the time to be mad or pissed at Myles. Years ago, if you wanted to be mad or pissed at him, that's when it was. He's 9 years into the league, guys. He's never changed. He is who he is. He's a sack machine. He's a fair enough guy. He just ain't a leader. He's the best player on your team, so that's why he gets a C on his chest, but that's it. But C's are meaningless here. They took it off of Nick Chubb. They gave it to Deshaun Watson. Is Deshaun Watson a leader? Hell no. So what's it matter?
Oh, wait a second. What's it matter? Is Deshaun at voluntary OTAs?
I don't know, Anthony. You're going to have to find out from somebody. I have no idea, Tone. Hey, man, if Nick's upset about it, I'm glad he's upset about it. Did you feel jerked around by Myles during the offseason? Maybe you did. Maybe you did.
Around?
Maybe you did. Just because you had to go through the whole, because it did make it feel a little bit worse. Like, hey, because I did say, like, welcome to the rebuild, because I thought that they were just going to have to trade him. I didn't know that they were going to try to hold on to him and try to do two things at once, which was try to compete and also develop quarterbacks and try to get younger here and dig out of this hole that is the Deshaun Watson contract again, who they put the C on his chest for.
I will say this. I did notice that there's a contingent of fans, and this happens in every fan base. They get mad that the media brings up who is at OTAs, brings up attendance at all. I do notice there are fans that get mad at us for even talking about it.
I think in some positions it's extremely important.
But, well, yeah, okay, so explain.
I think at quarterback, it's obviously extremely important. Yeah. If I were a Steelers fan right now, and it's the same thing when Aaron Rodgers elected to go to Egypt instead of what was it, the OTAs or the camp. Either way, it's not the right move. For a guy who's supposed to be all in, that's not the right move. You're a quarterback.
Most especially if you've never been there before and you're working with either new assistants or just a new coaching staff for you because you're new. But I do notice this gets brought up from time to time. Why do you guys wait? Super Bowls aren't won and lost in OTAs. But then there are also the fans.
I think the Philadelphia Eagles certainly believe that Super Bowls are won and lost in OTAs. I don't know. My team's never been to a Super Bowl, so I wouldn't know yet.
It is funny because I noticed Minnesota Vikings, I follow one of their beat writers, and he was noting that everybody was at Minnesota's OTAs. Like they got 1,000%. Everybody was there. And I noticed the responses were culture. That's why we have the culture that we have. Love this. Love that our coach has established this. So if Kevin Stefanski came on today and said, actually today, day 3, right? Because yesterday was day 2. Day 3, everybody showed up. Wouldn't fans say, oh, okay. Wouldn't fans start to say, wow, that's good. Maybe we are building something. So you can't have it both ways. You can't rip the media for bringing up attendance, but then be the first to pounce on, hey, everybody's here. Look, Myles Garrett got on a jet and he showed up because of what was said yesterday. You got to make up your mind whether you think it matters at all or not.
I think when people don't want to hear something that could be taken as bad news for the future, then they're going to rip people for bringing it up. I think that being at OTAs, if OTAs weren't important, then they just wouldn't have them. The CBA would fight against them. The Players Union would fight against them.
What if Kevin Stefanski was going to give a press conference today and media's kind of showing up going, well, it's easy to get a parking spot today. Oh, actually, nobody showed up. 0% showed up to voluntary OTAs. Wouldn't fans be a little alarmed that nobody showed up?
I think that would probably be a problem there.
But
I think that
we're just crafting opinions.
Yeah.
Based on what makes us feel better.
I'm hearing some things, and I'm going to get to the phones. 216-474-0092. Should Myles be at OTAs? Can Myles still be a leader? That horse to me left the barn years ago. I don't expect leadership out of Myles Garrett. I expect sacks out of Myles Garrett. That's what I expect. And so far, he gives me what I expect. So am I going to rip his play on the field? Mm-mm. The whole thing about Mason Graham will end up being a better player because he's playing next to Myles Garrett. I'm sure that Myles Garrett isn't going to turn his back and shun Mason Graham if Mason has any questions. So I tend to agree with what Peterlin says, but I just want to look at the common sense of what this is and say Mason Graham is going to be playing against an all-time great defensive player or playing with an all-time great defensive player. That should open up opportunities for Mason Graham. On the other side of him, Obo Okoronkwo, Isaiah McGuire, it should open up opportunities for those guys. But if Myles goes out there and starts to put in a poor performance, then it's going to be open season. But until he does that, he goes out there, he sacks guys 14 to 16 to 18 times a year, whatever the numbers are. He is the best defensive player that we've had in the history of the franchise. He has been every bit the number 1 overall pick that you took. You did not take him for leadership. I don't believe that was ever a big type of thing that they were looking at. And if it was, then maybe it was just lip service for the fan base. And that was it. Saying that it was the Cleveland Canton thing, I don't know. It seemed that everybody agreed with him over Andrew Berry over that was the wrong thing for Andrew Berry to say because it seemed like it was a line in the sand. And he knows as much as anybody. It's a zero-sum game. You either have him or you don't. So I really felt that they were going to, when he made that decision to go public with it, I just thought that they were going to say, damn the torpedoes, eat the terrible, terrible, terrible dead cap space on that and trade him for first-round picks that they would be able to get from him. Now, I mean, it was a very, very, very difficult contract to move before. Now it's impossible to move. So now you have him. Okay, well, he knows that. He knows that. And you can watch him like a hawk all year. If he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, go ahead. 216-474-0092 every Monday morning. Rip him up and down. Rip him up. If he goes out there and he has a poor performance, rip him up and down.
Well,
but I'm not going to say,
yeah.
well, he told me this and then he didn't do this as a leader. He's never told me anything that says he's going to be a great leader on this football team because he never has been. I don't expect that from him. It's been 9 seasons. The leopard doesn't change his spots. Sorry. Some guys, they get closer to the end of the line and leadership means more. Personal ownership of the organization that they're a big part of means more. Ain't that guy. He ain't that guy. He's in Tokyo now. He's traveling abroad. Okay, as long as you show up and play exceedingly well like you have been your entire career, that's what I expect. That's what the Browns have paid you for. But they ain't paying him to be Ray Lewis in the locker room. They ain't paying him to be Walter Payton and to get everybody up on the hill and have them running around. Name all the other great leaders that we've seen in the NFL in history. They're not paying him to be any one of those other guys. They're paying him to go out there and sack the quarterback and turn 2nd and 1 and a 3rd and long and get this defense off the field. That's what they're doing. 216-474-0092. And I know that they said that, well, maybe we expect a little bit more leadership out of him. I'm sure they said that to make it look better. There's no way that they expected anything more when they signed him. Not a chance.